feel like I should have taken dance lessons from Claire Cook with that entrance. I was given two instructions after last year's Robideaux Report. The first was to be on time, and I was on time, but the traffic was so bad. Somebody needs to do something about that. And then they said to keep it short because people didn't come here just to hear you talk. They heard about what's going on in the back, and they know that there's everything from stuffed alligator to pedophores. So they said speed it up and get us out of here and into the back. And so let me start tonight by telling you a little bit about what tonight's going to be about. We're going to talk about innovation, jobs, growth, what culture's role is in that. And there's a lot to go over, and I'm going to do my best job of having an auctioneer's voice, but just know that everything that's happened in 2017 that we could remember and recall and pull up on the computer is all included in our annual report. And the annual report, I know there was some out there. There'll be some at City Hall. We'll get some out to the libraries. And so anything regarding 2017 should be available to you in the annual report. Before I move on, I have to thank Sidra, who worked with me till all kind of hours of the night getting the presentation done. Blair, Joe, and Kate. When you go to the back, you'll see what kind of incredible work they've done, and so to them, I want to give a sincere thanks. Tonight's event and last year's event, and as far as I'm concerned, anytime I do this, it's going to be for the benefit of the Community Foundation. The Community Foundation, last year we set up a strategic initiatives fund, so all the money that we raise from tonight goes into that fund, and that fund is available for the Community Foundation to decide which strategic initiatives that they're interested in doing, and that money is available for them to use. I also want to thank our sponsors. LUS Fiber is our platinum sponsor. So unlike church or mass or any of that stuff, I want you to take out your cell phones. You can do that right now. For those, now my generation above will have to dig it out of their purse or go get it out their car. But for those of you that aren't my generation, grab your cell phones, because from this point forward, LUS Fiber has installed and will provide free Wi-Fi access in the Hyman Performing Arts Center. So if you're here and watching your child at a dance recital and dad couldn't be here, you don't need to use up all your data. Log into the Wi-Fi, Facebook Live, so they can see. And that also is available in the Friend Bustani Convention Center behind us. So thank you to LUS Fiber for that generous offer for what they've done. And I also want to take a few minutes to thank Terry Huval, who made his announcement earlier this week that he was going to be retiring in 2018. And so the Wi-Fi, when you pull it up, it's Robideaux Report, and I should have made it, thank you, Terry, since he's the one that made it happen. But that's the type of things that Terry does. He's always been forward-thinking, and we'll go over a lot of the LUS and LUS Fiber history a little bit later on, but we're going to miss you, Terry. You're going to be, there's not another Terry. There's nobody that knows the utility system and the fiber system at the level that you do. And you've worked with, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4 mayors maybe, and managed to keep everybody happy. So kudos to you for the incredible job that you've done. And we appreciate your service. And I'd like for everybody to join me in thanking Terry for your 24-year career and really have made a difference for Lafayette while you were here, but a lot of the things that you did are going to affect Lafayette in positive ways going forward. I also want to thank Iberia Bank as one of our gold sponsors. Jerry Vasquez and his team have been, so great to deal with. When I needed to secure sponsorships, they were there. We take for granted a lot of things that we have here in Lafayette, and one of them is that we have a $21 billion bank that chooses to headquarter in Lafayette. And seriously, those guys could leave. They could be headquarters anywhere in the southern part of the United States, and they choose to be here, and we're thrilled about that, and we know what an integral part of the community they are. So Jerry and Iberia Bank, thank you so much. Our other gold sponsor is Southern Lifestyle Development, which is Robert Daigle and a slew of others, Rodney Savoy, and those guys have always been great. I think everyone here knows the developments that they've done all over Lafayette Parish, all with tremendous amount of success. And again, they've branched out and are all over the country doing the same thing, and they choose to be here, and they're great community partners, and I wanted to thank them individually. Schilling is sponsoring the enjoyment in the back, and they would be the first to say, to be responsible. I see Toby in the audience. I think there's an OWI checkpoint. That may be tomorrow, but regardless, Schilling would say, be responsible with ride sharing and DDs and family and friends. There's really no reason to drink and drive. And so, but a thank you to Schilling for all that they do to help with this. This year we've added Waiter as our cultural partner. And when we talk about technology and we talk about our culture, Waiter's really kind of the personification of culture and technology coming together. Food for us is a obvious part of our culture. We take a lot of pride in it. In a lot of ways, it's very artistic. But those guys also are one of the most innovative companies in America. And they also could be located any number of places and choose to be here. And you'll hear more from those guys in a little bit. We've got the media partners of the Daily Advertiser that helps out with everything that you can imagine as it relates to media. A lot of things that go on behind the scenes, but rest assured, we couldn't put this on without their help. And then tonight, AOC is also a media partner for us, and they've done a great job putting this thing on and doing it without any hiccups, and for that, I'm very appreciative. And then last but not least, I want to thank all the folks at the Hyman. This is an incredible facility. When you go to the back, you'll see what an incredible facility it is. Not that that y'all haven't been back there before. But when we show up the day of the event and we're scrambling to get everything done, they have everybody here, making sure it's all working, making sure it's happening, and there's just an incredible staff. So to everyone at the Hyman, I want to say thank you. And before I kick things off, if I could, we lost our first officer in over 50 years in 2017. And if we could, I'd like if we could just bow our heads and have a moment of silence for the Middlebrook family. Thank you. That obviously was a difficult period. There was a lot of emotions that went on. I have to commend our police force in what had to be unimaginably difficult time to get up and go to work. The rest of us, we get up and go to work, but we don't put on bulletproof vests, and we don't worry about the types of things that these men and women worry about every time they leave the door. And so it's important that we remember that and thank them when we see them. And so to the Middlebrook family and to all of our officers, I'd like to give a round of applause just to show how much we appreciate everything that they do. I also want to recognize our council. I'm not sure how many of them are here tonight, but I know a couple of them had to be out of town. But let me just say a few words. Well, number one, when we were in the midst of the Middlebrook situation, there was a lot of discussion about benefits for our fallen, and so we needed to look into that. And the council was incredible. They asked all the right questions. They had us do all the research. We found out that we provided benefits far in excess of really anywhere else in the state of Louisiana. And even with that, they moved forward to enhance those benefits even more. And that's the type of work that the council does. And when I'm telling you that it's a thankless job, I don't mean to say that no one ever tells them thank you. I just mean to say that people rarely take the time to tell them thank you. And there needs to be a sincere appreciation for the sacrifices that they make. And a lot of civility's been lost in the political world, and I can get it at the federal level. To some degree, I can even get it at the state level. But at the local level, these are folks that take this part-time job, take away time from their families, are at the ballparks with you, or at your church with you, and are trying their best to become educated on issues that range from development codes to what's best for parks and recreation and everything else in between, and making votes based on that information. And some of the vitriol that gets hurled their way just because you happen to disagree with their position on something just really is disappointing and surprises me. And so I want to say, anytime that I can, and I have the microphone so I can, a huge thank you to the folks that are willing to make the sacrifice, willing to run for office, willing to take the difficult votes and do what has to be done. If you're going to be a great community, you really need to have a great council. They have been an absolute pleasure to work with. We obviously don't agree on everything, but that doesn't take away from the fact that I know they show up to do their job and do it in the best interest of the people that they serve. And really, what more can we ask of them? So for doing that, I want to say thank you. And I don't even need a vote for that. I'm sincere when I say that. So at last year's inaugural Robideaux Report is when we rolled out the CREATE initiative. And that was about economic diversification, about jobs, about leveraging our cultural assets in these positive ways. And it was important, and it still is important, because for 2 years we led the nation in job loss. 2 years we led the nation in job loss. And that's a dose of reality that I don't think a lot of folks comprehend. Now, the ones that have suffered because they were in the oil and gas industry and had the loss of their job, they do. But the rest of us kind of keep cruising along. And so what the point behind the CREATE initiative is, remember, I'm a CPA, so I'm not the most creative person in the world. And when I look to try to figure out how do I put Lafayette in the best position possible to stabilize the budget, to make us a place that people want to move to, that businesses want to move to, it is incredibly and easily identifiable and apparent that our cultural economy is the low-hanging fruit. It already exists, and it can only get bigger. And so if we just have a strategic vision of how we're going to capitalize on all this talent that we have, then it will become the stabilizing force in our budget. At this time, I have to say thank you to Kate Durio. I don't know if Kate made it here or not. Are you here, Kate? There you are. Thank you. She was in the back setting everything up, because the biggest hurdle for the CREATE initiative, everybody heard about it, right? Most people were like, well, that makes sense, and that's good. But then, I took the next step to try to rededicate money to actually fund this strategic initiative, and that's always difficult, and especially when voter turnout is hovering around 9, 10, and 11%. And so I'm not going to get on my soapbox tonight about voter turnout, But just know that it is an incredibly embarrassing and disappointing reflection on not just us, it's across the country, but man, what I like for Lafayette to be the one place that people turn out to vote. And so I knew that it was going to be important for us to get the folks that understood what we were trying to accomplish out to the polls. And I would argue that single-handedly Kate and her outreach drove at least another 2 or 3% to the polls, and we ended up having somewhere in the neighborhood of 15% turnout when it was projected to be 11, and the measure ended up passing fairly easily. And just to let you know that the initiative has merit, already at the end of 17, we were contacted by the Buddy Holly Foundation out of the UK. Every year, the Buddy Holly Foundation, I don't know, for the last couple of decades, has put on a songwriting workshop. They love Buddy Holly in the UK, even though he's from Lubbock. But they have, that's where the foundation's located. And they put on this songwriting workshop, and they get people from all over the world to come and work with young songwriters to mentor them. And they actually write songs during the week. And then at the end of the week, they have a song that they've done together. And it became hugely popular. And they decided they were going to start that workshop in the United States. They wanted to bring the same workshop to the United States. And so they were considering all the likely suspects, the Nashvilles, the Austins, and Memphis, the music cities, the Detroit, of course, L.A. I don't know why, but anyway, a lot of them were considered. But then through a connection, they heard about Lafayette. They heard about the CREATE initiative. Next thing I know, I'm on the phone with the executive director of the foundation that wants to know about the CREATE initiative. I tell him about it. Lo and behold, this May, and for the next 3 or 4 years, the light's in my eye, so I can't see the signals they're giving me, but let's just say it's 4. For the next 4 years, the Buddy Holly Foundation chose Lafayette to be their first U.S. songwriting festival. And so just an example of how a commitment to an initiative speaks volumes to people all across the globe. And so they've been great. They're even giving us a couple of scholarships. I mean, the scholarships are fairly expensive, or the fees to come to the workshop are fairly expensive. They've granted Lafayette two scholarships to invite our own to participate in the workshop while they're here. So that's one. The Music Cities Connect Conference is a who's who of folks in the music industry. And it's been in Washington, D.C., and it's been in Memphis. And so we did what Lafayette does. We sent a team up there with Boudin to Memphis, and we presented Lafayette. We talked to them about the CREATE initiative. They were looking to expand it to the next place. And so in October, the Music Cities Connect Conference has decided that Lafayette is going to be the next location. So this fall, we have that coming to Lafayette also. You can clap if you want, but I'm going to keep talking. The IDC Smart City Awards, it's a national program. CREATE initiative was nominated in 3 categories. The Bloomberg Mayor's Challenge is a challenge that goes out to mayors across the United States this year. I think there was over 340 applicants. They picked 35 finalists. Lafayette was chosen, and I'm not giving CREATE credit for that, but all the things that Lafayette has going for it, including an application that talked about our cultural economy and how strong it is and why it's important. And I'm not on the team. I have to select 4 folks to be on the team. They're in the middle. So our application got selected for the finals. They now give us till August to modify that application and resubmit it, and they're going to announce the winners out of the 30, the 4 $1 million prizes to implement the technology and initiative that you want, and then 1 $5 million grand prize winner. So we're in the middle of putting that modified application together and keeping our fingers crossed. So if any of y'all know Bloomberg, just give them a buzz and put a plug for us. At the same time that we went with the CREATE rededication, we went with the drainage rededication, and the point there was Before I was going to the voters and asking for any kind of money, I wanted to go through the budget and see if I could find existing tax dollars so that we could do more with what we have, because I think that's the mantra that the public wants, and I think that's fair. And so we scoured the budget to find more for drainage. The slide up there will show you that we identified $9 million of one-time money, $2.5 million annually to be committed to drainage, and so that was also passed by the voters, and so we're going to be seeing that money spent soon. So in July, talking about drainage, in July, Tom Carroll finally retired, and we, much to my dismay. So if that sounded wrong, then I apologize, because he had actually retired and then did me a favor and came back to help with the transition. And so for that, I'm forever grateful. So we had to find somebody, and we found this guy. And so last year we introduced all of our directors via video, so let's introduce him via video too. When Tom Carroll retired, I knew I had to get someone that had background in drainage. I knew that I wanted him to have both public and private sector experience, and was thrilled when Mark Dubrock even applied for the position.
I'd had a career since I was 22 in the engineering business, and I thought, you know, this is a great opportunity to really give something back to the community that I really love.
The flooding problems that exist for Lafayette Parish are not new. They've been around since the early 1900s. It's a solvable problem, but it's an expensive solution.
The challenges of drainage in Lafayette Parish have been brought front and center due to the flood of 2016. That flood, being 30 inches of rain in 2 days, taxed every aspect of the drainage system. Some of that was due to maintenance that has not taken place in past years due to basically lack of funds and lack of manpower.
A lot of our coolies hadn't had any attention paid to them in 30-plus years, and we need to get those dredged out. We need to pay some attention to them so we can return them to its natural flow. Deferred maintenance is a serious problem, and it's one that we recently addressed. We went to the voters, and we had found some surplus money that we felt like would be better used to attack the deferred maintenance, $2.5 million a year going forward, plus $9 million of one-time money.
And we came up with a little formula equation that allowed us to give a rating to those channels.
I didn't want it to become political. I wanted it to be where the needs were.
And those projects were prioritized and rated, and those are the top needed projects in Lafayette Parish.
And we've changed a lot of the development codes here in the last few months so that any new development has to hold more water for a lot longer. And our hope is that small incremental steps in the long run, we're gonna work toward a long-term solution.
Typically, we've operated as silos where each parish is doing their own thing with their own priorities, their own interests, their own funds.
But there's a project in Iberia Parish that will probably have just as much impact on Lafayette Parish as the Lafayette Parish projects will. So we combined all of our money to the tune of about $25 million to approach it from a regional perspective. And so that is in combination with every other effort that we've made to address our drainage problems.
Another interesting aspect of the Drainage Initiative program is that at Joel's direction, we're going to publicly post on the dashboard tracking the progress of the 27 individual drainage projects.
They'll know that when we applied for the wetlands permit, where we are with establishing or securing right-of-ways and servitudes to be able to do the work. They'll know where the holdups are, they'll know why it's delayed, or they'll know why it's not delayed, which is really important to start to rebuild some of the trust between government and the public. And I think the dashboard that highlights these projects will be a really smart and good way to do that.
My goal as Director of Public Works is to bring to Lafayette an infrastructure that reflects the high caliber and character of the people of Lafayette, who are my people.
And let me just say about Mark and his little spreadsheet that it was full-blown engineering spreadsheet. I mean, it was an impressive Excel spreadsheet that took in a whole litany of considerations and analytics to rank these. And so it wasn't done in any kind of cavalier way, I can assure you. And for that, I know his staff worked really hard to get that, because that was the directive, is that we did not want this in any way to be able to be judged as anything other than an independent analysis for where the needs were. And certainly the needs go far beyond the money that we have. And we're estimating what we think the costs are going to be. And so you may see some number on our dashboard of what we estimate it to be. We may come in under, it may go over, but nonetheless, we'll just keep working down that list to attack the projects that we know need to be attacked. Now, as stressful and difficult as the flood was, there was the arrival of some hope in 2017, and specifically there was an organization of really about 2,500 volunteers from all over the globe, and it called 8 Days of Hope. And for those that were flood victims that got to meet these people that actually used their vacation time to come to Lafayette, it's a special group, and it's an interfaith, interagency effort. And they went to all the flooded communities, and they just fell in love with Lafayette and said, this is where we want to come, and this is where we're going to help. And so they came here and spent 8 days and fixed a whole lot of homes and made connections and relationships. And about 3 months later, there was another group of them that came back to finish some of the projects that they weren't able to finish in the 8 days. And just an incredible organization. And so I'm not here to promote them in any way, but I'll tell you, if you ever are looking for a charity to donate money to, what they do is incredible, and they literally do it out of the kindness of their heart on their own dime, with whatever help they happen to get from the public. So that was a blessing for Lafayette. We also, in 2007, we established the Awareness Committee for Citizens with Disabilities, and it was to give a greater voice, and it reports directly to the mayor and give that voice to folks that were living with disabilities. And then in November of this year, I welcomed Liam Doyle. Where's Liam? Is he here? There's Liam. If you haven't met Liam, you need to make sure and introduce yourself to him. I don't know if you see it. Liam has a TED Talk on YouTube that you need to go watch. But so we welcomed Liam as our first Disability Affairs Coordinator to work for LCG and to serve as the official voice for citizens with disabilities. He was the chairman of the committee, the Awareness Committee, prior to that. And he's going to help us with our ADA compliance, but also having better response to constituents that have needs, and also to educate the public on all the things that we do related to our inclusion efforts. And so we've got a slide where Liam took we also have a youth council made up of a bunch of high school kids from all over Lafayette Parish, and Liam took them on what I call the Disability Reality Tour, and showed them how difficult it can be to navigate in some areas of Lafayette, and things that you're just not aware of unless you take the time to learn. And so I'm thrilled to have Liam on the team in an official capacity. He's a tremendous asset for us. So Liam, welcome to LCG. At the last Robideaux Report, we also introduced the initiative of the University Avenue Corridor. I think everyone is somewhat familiar with that. As of Tuesday night this week, we have now held 2 public meetings to get input from the folks that live and work along that corridor. It's a state highway. We're working with DOTD. The Acadiana Planning Commission has been a tremendous help to us, to both from technical aspects, but also from funding, and they have funded our initial consultation and outreach to the public. And I want to thank Monique Boulay for the Acadiana Planning Commission's help. we're going to turn this into a gateway corridor that is reflective of how we all feel about where we live. And we want people coming in to Lafayette to feel and experience the Lafayette that we love. And so this is a project that desperately needs to happen. It's gonna take effort on our part. We're gonna have to work with the Acadiana Planning Commission. We're gonna have to work with the State Department of Transportation, but it's something that we have to do. And so our planning group, Carly's department, has been working hard on this, and so we're pushing forward. I think we'll have one more public outreach meeting, so certainly know that you're welcome to come and provide your input as it relates to the University Corridor. In 2017, the historic building, the Holy Rosary Institute, when I was in high school, it was still a high school, and it was an iconic high school, and it's got this incredible history. If you don't know the history, you really need to go look it up. Educating young African-American women when it was really against the law to even do so. They were doing it, the nuns were doing it here at Holy Rosary Institute. And they were awarded a $450,000 grant from the National Park Service for intense rehabilitation. Dr. Shanae Nelson, who's the Director of Community Development in an advisory capacity, really helped them with that application. And we're committed to help them get this restored to where people can go and experience it, learn more about it. It's on a beautiful piece of property, so we're working hard to make sure that happens also. We also rolled out the no-kill initiative, so we should have a cute picture of the dog and the kittens. And just by way of a little bit of background, we inherited an animal control shelter that euthanized 91% of the cats that came through the door, euthanized 53% of the dogs that came through the door. Now, the folks that operate in that world prefer to flip that and use live outcomes. So said differently, cats had live outcomes of 9% and dogs had live outcomes of 47%. But adoptions cost $100. You could only do it between 1:30 and 4 on weekdays, pretty much when no one could go. Animal rescue groups rarely were allowed to pull pets from the shelter. And so we made a few simple changes. We said you can adopt during business hours. If the doors are open, you can adopt. We have Second Chance Saturdays now. We lowered adoption fees. We got a grant from Petco that allowed us to do that. Thank you, Robert Benoit, for securing that grant. So I think the elderly and military, the adoption fees are waived completely, and we're down to $25, $35, something in that range. We allow and we actually encourage the rescue groups to come and pull animals whenever they want. Acadiana Animal Aid has been our greatest partner in that regard. And just those small steps, we've seen live outcomes jump. Live outcomes for dogs, we're now at 77%. For cats, we're at 49%. Puppies and kittens are even higher than those two numbers. And then the biggest hurdle and the most difficult component to actually get to no kill, which is a 90% live outcome, is the trap neuter return program. And when I say the lawyers worked for over a year, I'm not exaggerating. It's government at its finest. It took us a long time, but we wanted to get it right. But the trap neuter return ordinance was passed this fall. And so our initiative, if you remember, was originally No Kill 2020. So we have now the ordinances in place. And so we have the rest of 18, 19, and then sometime in 20 to achieve that no kill, and I feel confident that we're going to get there. So that's another huge thank you to the council, because we're going to be a community that puts its money where its mouth is and say we wanted a no-kill community, and we're going to become that. Also last year, I was in Kansas City recently and meeting with the mayor of Kansas City and just asking him about his community and said, any advice you can give me? And the one thing he said is, don't get the animal people on your bad side. You'll never recover from that. So it's universal. It's obviously universal. But I told him, I said, no, we're heading to no kill. We're going in the right direction. So also in 2017, we had the renewals for the courthouse and the jail that were brought before the voters and failed in the spring. And it's important to point out that in the spring, when these two failed, I'm guilty of not talking about them, not letting the public know about them, not letting the public know what they were about. No renewals had ever failed in Lafayette Parish, and so I was figuring if I talked about it, I'd jinx us, and so what happened, happened. But it's important to know that as it relates to those two millages and a lot of other millages that are dedicated parish dollars, our parish general fund, and I know you've probably heard me say this before, is a little over $12 million is what it is annually. And we have to fund all kinds of mandated expenses out of that. Our entire court system, judges, DAs, register of voters, all of that comes out of the general fund. Any of our volunteer firefighters, that comes out of the general fund. So a lot comes out of the general fund. And that fund was $20 million just a few years ago. Of course, oil was $100 and something a barrel. But as the economy has shrunk, as we as in the municipalities have annexed the unincorporated parts of the parish, that parish general fund has shrunk down to the level that it's at now, and in all likelihood with annexations is going to continue to shrink. And at some point, it's going to get to the point where we can't pay for the stuff that we're mandated by law to pay for. And so it was important that we let the voters know that and say, look, if these dedicated funds don't pass, and they're about $10 million to run the jail and to run the courthouse, it has to come out of the general fund because they're mandated that we pay for them, which is going to leave me $2 million to pay for all the things that are currently being paid with the $12 million. And thankfully and appropriately, once you educate the voters, it passed 65-35. It was really, I think, an easy decision for most of the voters, and so I was very appreciative of that. But it reinforces the notion that the public just wants to be made aware. They want to be informed, and they want to know what's going on, and I think that's a great thing. And so it's important that we remember that. And so saying that, there's 4 renewals that are coming up. So I'm not going to not mention them at the Robideaux Report like I didn't mention those last year. I'm not going to take anything for granted. I think the 14th, which is this Saturday, is when early voting starts, and then I think the actual election is on the 28th. So you'll have a week from the 14th on to do early voting, and then the 28th, the Saturday the 28th, is when the actual election is. And in case you're doing the calendar in your head, yes, that is Festival International. So you may want to take advantage of the early voting time. The renewals are roads and bridges, our parks, 35 parks that we manage, the operation of our libraries, and operation and maintenance of our juvenile detention center. All of these property taxes, that when they come up for renewals, they're required by law to come up for renewal every 10 years, as they should. I think that's a good law that's in place so that the voters can say, what have you done with the money? And we think that you should continue. So here's the 4. Okay, well, 3, because I don't think I really need to tell you that we need to renew the money for roads and bridges. I mean, we've overlaid probably 40 or so this year. We'll do some more, and that's what that money's used for, and we use every nickel of it as we can, and it's not enough. But trust me, we spend it all and on road overlays and improvements where we can. The millage for the parks is the only dedicated funding that the park system gets. And so we shouldn't take for granted that it costs money to provide and to maintain the swing sets and the seesaws and all the picnic areas and the things that we enjoy. We got to mow that grass. We have to maintain the practice fields. We have to maintain the indoor facilities. There's utilities associated with that. There's maintenance on the buildings. And so that park millage is really a fairly small millage. I know there's been a lot of discussion about how the park system needs more, but it certainly needs to continue. And if we want to utilize the parks that are in our neighborhoods, then I would ask that you vote for that renewal also. The operation of the libraries are more crowded than ever, no matter what your gut tells you. And I was guilty of that myself, so let me say that I'm not casting stones to you for thinking that. But the utilization rates are higher now than they've ever been. I believe that it's because there is a digital divide. Your children, my children may have access to an iPad or a laptop or a home computer, but there's many kids in Lafayette Parish that have to try to do their homework on the cell phone because that's the only connection they have. And the libraries provide an alternative for those families that happen to find themselves in that situation. And that's why I challenge any of you to go to a library after school up until probably 7 or 8 o'clock, and you'll see that those libraries are packed with people. Lastly, the fourth vote is for our juvenile detention system, and it's really kind of a false choice because it's similar to the jail and the courthouse vote in that we have to pay to house our youthful offenders. And I don't mean have to like morality, which is a point, but I mean like we have to pay. Right? We're going to send them somewhere, and we're going to pay for it. We happen to have a facility here in Lafayette Parish, which I think is beneficial on two fronts. One, it's a lot cheaper than if we have to ship them off somewhere, which a lot of parishes are doing. But number two, and this probably is more on the morality side, I don't think it's a good idea, and I don't think it's good policy to have parents have to go 3 hours to see their kids. And I'm not talking about 16 and 17-year-olds alone. I'm talking young kids that have made some mistakes, need some direction, and I just think we can do a lot better job if we're able to maintain our existing juvenile detention center and help with the rehab locally. And so that's also up for renewal. So those are the 4 items. It's not going to be the last time that I talk about them, but I didn't want to miss the opportunity to educate everyone in the audience that is coming up. Technology, innovation, smart city. Anytime you hear those words from this point forward, I want you to think about jobs, transparency, responsiveness, and more efficient government. And we have a video I want to show you, and then I'll talk some more about that.
One of the most exciting things to companies about Silicon Valley or Austin or those places is that they've built a culture around technology. And so for us, in order to attract and keep the software engineering talent that we need, they really want a vibrant technology culture. When I say technology culture, it's not just built around technology, but technology is a catalyst. It's art, it's music, it's entertainment.
When we announced the CREATE initiative last year, it was an important component for us to be able to attract millennial talent to this town.
Everything from the festivals, the culture, gigabit fiber, low-cost utilities, inexpensive housing, an unbelievable outdoor environment.
We started looking for places to relocate a large regional office for Waiter. Now almost all of our software development is done right here in Lafayette, and we've proven the venture capitalists wrong because we haven't had to leave Louisiana to attract the right kind of talent. The talent is here in Lafayette and Lafayette Parish and the surrounding areas.
There was a time period where I was thinking, where am I going to move to next? I've been to Houston, I've been to DC, I've been to a couple different areas, and I always felt like the atmosphere could be a little cold, especially coming from an engineering background. This feels so warm and welcome. There's nothing quite like Lafayette.
I left Louisiana in 1991, right out of college, to go work in technology. But I didn't have a choice back then. And so coming back and starting this company here, I wanted to give Louisianans an opportunity to work for a technology company in Louisiana.
I like all sorts of things about Lafayette, especially the food. It's really good. There's still a lot to do out here, just like there is in California, so it's a fun place to come to. I like building products, so what I'm doing, I'm already living my dream, so I just want to keep doing what I'm doing, get more people on the product team, so that way I have more people like me, and we kind of have a little family.
So rather than software engineers looking to go to Austin or Silicon Valley now, they know that there's a place they can go, not just Waiter, but other technology companies within Lafayette that's kind of built the culture around technology in this area.
but attracting the best and the brightest from all over the globe to move here, to start their companies, to do their research, to feel like they're at a place that, one, that they know puts a value on technology, two, is a great place to live and a unique experience that they can't get anywhere else, and three, coupled with the university and the research and the big data analytics that exist.
The investment in big data from the university has resulted in the establishment of the National Science Foundation Center for Visual and Decision Informatics, which is the only center of excellence of its type in the United States and the only center of excellence of any kind in the state of Louisiana. Mayor-President Robideaux has outlined his strategy for the future, which includes continued investment from a smart city perspective.
So rather than Lafayette being a mecca for sending talent elsewhere, we can be the center of attracting talent to South Louisiana, which is extremely important for a company like us to be able to stay alive and continue to grow and thrive in Louisiana.
I think we could just keep showcasing that there are companies like us out here. We're not the only one.
I think Lafayette's story can be one that's the envy of every other community. It doesn't matter what size that community is.
The one thing that I would want more than anything is I would want to get an effort behind the mayor's efforts to create a tech hub here in Louisiana, to educate the rest of the community so that they understand the importance of the arts and entertainment and all of the things that young millennials look for in a vibrant city that they want to be a part of.
We're on the leading edge of that, and we're working towards connecting in better and smarter and more efficient ways. But Lafayette's well positioned to be a leader of all size cities into the future. I almost wore that same tie. I'm glad I should have watched the video before I came. But so the vision of Lafayette's leaders 100 years ago, 50 years ago, and really a little over just a decade ago have given us this incredible opportunity. We have a municipally owned utility system. Louisiana's second largest university is located here, and so all the economic benefits that come with having over 19,000 students and the faculty that teaches them is available to us. The research partnerships that are available to businesses and our nationally recognized faculty is here. A university that had the nation's first master's degree in computer science that produces more graduates in computer science, computer engineering, and informatics than any other university in the state. And again, like Matt Delcom said, is the nation's only national science foundation designated center of excellence in the area of big data analytics. As recent as 1999, fiber was installed to replace microwave communication systems. Thank you, Terry. And that led to building out a community-owned fiber system. It led to the deployment of a smart grid system. In 2014, our broadband was recognized as having the fastest home internet in the world, along with 6 other cities: Seoul, South Korea, Tokyo, Japan, and Hong Kong globally, Chattanooga, Kansas City, Missouri, and Kansas City, Kansas, which always confuses me because it's 2 cities, but they're separated by a river, but they're all connected apparently with really fast internet, and then us. US Ignite in 2016 designated Lafayette as a smart gigabit community, and in conjunction with that, the Mozilla Foundation then recognized us and awarded us a $150,000 grant, an innovation grant, and provides us with access to these local innovation grants now from this point forward. And all of this because our leaders and the community that they served had vision and, importantly, the will to make it happen. Lafayette Parish turns 200 years old in 2023, 5 years from now. So as we set the table for our bicentennial celebration, we have to ask ourselves, what do you envision? Where are we going? I envision that we're going to continue down the entrepreneurial path. I think we're going to be a community that does more than simply embrace technology and innovation, because we've been given the foundation to lead. As pointed out earlier, we're recognized by others across the globe. The foundation that we have to build upon is envied by other U.S. cities. And so we need to commit to build a future that motivates and retains our best and brightest and allows us to compete for the best and brightest from all over the globe. For many cities, attracting business and attracting a qualified workforce is kind of a chicken and egg dilemma. The businesses will consider coming if there's an available and qualified workforce, and the individuals will move there if there's jobs. We're not in that situation. We've got a top-level university that's spitting out talented employees every semester. We have this incredible, unique culture that people from all over the globe recognize and want to experience. We have the connectivity and the infrastructure that businesses need to compete. And the need for tech-savvy workers exists in every industry: oil and gas, healthcare, finance, legal, manufacturing, industrial, retail, and culture. All rely on technology to compete. So as it relates to the utilization of technology, here are some smart city technologies that will move Lafayette forward in 2018. We're rolling out Dial 311 to allow the public an easier way to engage government, request services, and report problems. And I think that's up and running now. Don't dial 311 till after. Unless you're calling and say, how long is this guy going to go? And then they'll tell you they don't know. But someone should answer. We're launching a community mobile app titled The Hub of Lafayette to provide information to the public 24/7. LUS Fiber is set to roll out 10 gigs sometime. I don't think I'm at liberty to say when, but obviously we're one of the few areas in the world that has the ability to do that. They're going to continue their expansion outside of the city of Lafayette because the demand is there. People call and ask for LUS Fiber every day. In cooperation with CGI, we now have the Gnome Nation app. Does everyone know who Yardley is? Yardley? Where's Skyward, huh? I expected a scream. CGI, let me just plug CGI for 1 second. 400 employees. They are truly a community asset. These guys help us in so many ways, and they took their interns, and we wanted our Project Front Yard to have a mobile app that we could gather teams together and gamify it and reward them with what I call helmet stickers, except they're on the computer, to say what they've done, and have a leaderboard to track who our best and most active citizens are. And so CGI, that's the most recent thing that they've done. But anytime we ask for anything, they help. And so that app is out there. You can now text 911. Starting with LUS, we're working on a digital platform that's going much similar to the dashboard that you saw in the drainage video, that you'll be able to track the project. And so we're working on a digital platform that will allow citizens to gather data, disseminate information to them. As part of the CREATE initiative, we've created a community calendar, or we're in the process of creating a community calendar and finalizing it. That's going to list, you can go one place to see what all is going on, so that you don't schedule an event like this on the same night as Rhythms on the River. But it was either that or the Styx and REO Speedwagon concert. So I had a really difficult decision to make. Also, as it relates to CREATE, we are putting together a cultural asset inventory portal, so we'll know every musician, every venue. If someone calls 311 and says, is there a practice facility for my theater group or my band, all of that information will be in there. So if you know of a place or you want to make sure that you're included on that portal, reach out to Kate. We have the CREATE website, and send us an email to make sure, because we want it to be as comprehensive a listing as possible. We have folks call all the time. I need a trombone player. Do y'all have any trombone players? Do you know of any? So we need to have this. I'm not exaggerating when I'm telling you, we get requests all the time for our cultural assets like that, and we need to be able to give them an answer. And the easiest way to kind of view all the different things that I just talked about is to go to robideauxreport.com/apps, and you'll see buttons to download those apps and use them as you want. So we need to continue to implement these smart city solutions in a very systematic way to maximize their impact. The one thing we're not going to do is we're not going to do something smart city just because it sounds good and we'll get an article written about us. For me, there has to be a tangible impact, right? I want to see, how is it going to make government more efficient? How are we going to be more responsive to the community by doing this? And those are the things that are expected of us, but those are the things that technology gives us. We have to operate and manage our utility and fiber systems in innovative ways that maximize our return on these assets. The production of energy is constantly changing industry. There's regulations, there's technology, there's politics, and all of that contributes to the demand for like a nimble response. And we're a government, and we're not known for being nimble. We own a coal plant. We have an economically obsolete gas plant. And so we need to have some really frank discussions about how we continue providing the most reliable utility service like we currently do. We need to find money to invest in upgrades to the aging utility infrastructure, and we need to take advantage of 21st century energy technology that's out there. Also, things that we need to consider, not related or not specifically to our utility and our fiber system, is when you hear big data, AI, augmented reality, machine learning systems, the Internet of Things, distributed ledger technology, blockchain, cryptocurrencies, don't let your mind go blank like it just did. They're just phrases and acronyms that simply mean better stormwater management through the use of sensors, smart traffic lights that detect backups and adjust in real time, enhanced museum and festival experiences, mobile apps to report problems, track them, and rate your government. We can do it at restaurants now, right? The public is getting to the point where they expect to be able to do that with government. As it relates to the blockchain and the distributed ledgers, you can get instant encrypted access to all your medical records, all your real estate transactions, all your business and legal documents, and anything else that you stick in a file cabinet currently, you can have instantly secure and access to it for your entire life history. I tried to come up with a simply means for cryptocurrencies, and I've struggled. I thought if I spelled it a little differently that I'd have this epiphany, but that didn't happen. But I can tell you, everywhere I go, the level of enthusiasm whenever I mention that Lafayette can position itself to take advantage and to capitalize on this global adoption of digital currencies, the enthusiasm is obvious. First, it's important to know that the market capitalization for cryptocurrencies, I wrote 270 billion, but that was yesterday. I think it's closer to 300 billion. This time last year it was about 18 billion. This is money that people are investing in this digital currency. All kinds of digital currencies. Bitcoin's the one that most people recognize, but there's all kinds of digital currencies that are out there. These national tech companies are also investing billions of dollars in blockchain technology that's the backbone of cryptocurrency and digital currency. It's not just a bunch of global libertarians that want unregulated, untraceable, secure digital currency transactions. It's the recognition of global stakeholders that the world of banking, finance, and payment systems is forever changed, and that the world of healthcare, government, and possibly every other industry is about to be disrupted. So here's where I am as it relates to this issue. The official motto of Lafayette Parish is innovation with an accent. And as a CPA for 26 years, I'm intrigued by the advances in these financial technologies. I believe Lafayette should create its own cryptocurrency to engage with the global market, and we should use the proceeds from either an ICO, an initial coin offering, or some other related financing mechanism to build a living lab of blockchain researchers and developers. We should use that research to partner with innovation leaders across the country and across the globe to develop solutions targeting government inefficiencies and, more importantly, alternatives for financing our public infrastructure. We must have one global libertarian in the audience clapping. And I know a lot of that sounds complicated, but it's important to know that it's real, that we have this unique culture and this unique brand, and that now is the time for us to do what was done by those that came before us and continue the leadership role that we inherited. Now, everyone's favorite two words in closing. Our effort to become a leading digital smart city began decades and longer than decades ago. In the audience tonight, we have out-of-state visitors from Deloitte, US Ignite, Mozilla, Superion, Socrata, Uber. Bruce Greenstein, the Chief Technology Officer for the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, is in from D.C. Now, I'm sure that the food back there may have factored in their decision to join us. But I suspect that they're also interested in how we position ourselves for the future. The people of this community decided to invest in themselves every time an opportunity was presented. And when opportunities weren't apparent, the men and women of Lafayette Parish created an opportunity. We are not where we are because of timid souls before us. We are poised to become a global innovation hub if we dare to. I challenge each and every one of you to figure out what role you want to play in our future. I commit to do everything I can to ensure Lafayette's position as a great American city. Thank you all for taking the time to be here tonight. Please join me. Well, I have one thing of housekeeping. So in the back, CGI was kind enough to put a Robideaux beacon in place. So let me just tell you, for those that took their phones out and still have them out, if you go to robideauxreport.com/app, download CGI Beacon, and when you go in the back, you'll have an experience that the folks from my generation won't have, but we'll ask you what it's about when we get back there. And so now, I say let's join everyone that's snuck out and is back there into the Convention Center for food, drink, and our showcase of technology and culture. Thank you all for coming. Have a great night.